You're watching Eswatini TV News Bulletin at 8, read to you by myself, Notile Sitole. First up, here's a look at tonight's headlines. His Majesty King Eswatini III has informed the nation that he tested positive for COVID-19 last month. His Majesty challenges government to be cautious when reopening schools in the country. On another note, His Majesty King Eswatini III has sent his condolences to the Argentinian president following the death of that country's former president, Dr. Carlos Menem. And now, our bulletin in detail. His Majesty King Eswatini III has informed the nation that he tested positive for COVID-19 in January this year. The King says he recovered fully after he was treated with antiviral drugs, and he has instructed the government to procure the drugs while the country awaits the COVID-19 vaccine. His Majesty addressed the nation in Parliament when he opened the third session of the 11th Parliament. The state opening was graced by Her Majesty Indlovukazi.
His Majesty King Mswati III, King and Ingonyama of the Kingdom of Eswatini, gave the nation just what it needed to hear, a message of reassurance and hope. The inauguration of the third session of the 11th Parliament was conducted under strict COVID-19 safety protocols. The state event also graced by Her Majesty the Indlovukazi. A moment of silence was observed in remembrance of COVID victims.
I have been commanded by their Majesties to request that Onge Emaswati rise to their feet in honor of all Emaswati that have lost their lives due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Delivering the speech from the throne and mapping the way forward for the country as it combats the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. The highly anticipated speech was a powerful example of strategic leadership in difficult circumstances. From the onset, His Majesty acknowledging the economic and social disruption caused by the pandemic. The King announcing that in January he tested positive to COVID-19 and recovered after he was treated with an antiviral drug, further disclosing that he has instructed government to procure the drug.
I wish to share that there is treatment through the use of an antibacterial drug, which is very useful in the fight against the pandemic. We discovered this medicine after I tested COVID-19 positive for a couple of days on the first week of January 2021. I am grateful to the President of the Republic of China, Taiwan, for sending through this medication to help treat me. I do believe that my testing positive was to bring to light the discovery of this treatment. I did not announce it then, but when I intended to mention it, I discovered that I was now negative.
His Majesty said the acquisition of a COVID-19 vaccine is well underway, but may take a while as vaccines are not easily accessible, further assuring that efforts are being made to find the right vaccine.
We have instructed government to immediately procure this drug, as it has remarkable success by producing a recovery in a short space of time.
His Majesty says the outbreak has presented a need for the country to look into the development of a local center for disease control. On the news, I'm Sandila Makanya reporting for Eswatini TV News in Parliament.
His Majesty King Mswati III says the process of opening schools should be carried out with due care and attention to realize a safe opening environment. Addressing the nation during the official opening of the third session of the 11th Parliament, His Majesty also recognized frontline workers as heroes and further sympathized with Eswatini who have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic.
His Majesty King Mswati III says it is a huge concern that schools are still closed by this time of the year. His Majesty says keeping people at home has also meant closing schools, and many children are now lagging behind in their lessons as only a few are attending classes.
A year has gone by and we are all keen to see all our children return to school. We need to ensure that this process is carried with due care and attention so as to realize a safe reopening environment that will not cause a rise in new infections. May we remind and caution the nation not to lose focus, but join hands in the fight against this outbreak, so we come out with ways and means of winning the battle.
The King and Ingwenyama of the Kingdom of Eswatini also acknowledged frontline workers and commended them for the great work they have been doing.
In the midst of it all, we wish to recognize and commend all the frontline health workers. They have been at the forefront of the country's fight against the pandemic. You are our heroes. Through your bravery, you've been able to enter the facilities full of COVID-19 patients to give them life. We all need to applaud this selfless dedication to your call of duty.
His Majesty also highlighted that it is very sad that COVID-19 managed to claim some casualties, as over 600 people have died. His Majesty also expressed sympathy to the families who have lost their loved ones during these trying times.
Unfortunately, COVID-19 has managed to claim some casualties, as over 600 of our people, among whom were government officials and members of the general public, have lost their lives to the virus. We also recognize our healthcare workers whom contracted the disease while responding to their calling. To all the families who have lost their relatives, and to those who are going through the healing process while receiving medical attention, wherever they may be, we say, rest assured that our prayers are with you.
The King also encouraged the nation to continue following the COVID-19 precautions and regulations put in place. On the news, I'm Polile Mazia in Parliament.
As the country combats the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, His Majesty has instructed government to cushion the economy from collapsing. The King has further said the pandemic has had negative effects on the National Vision 2022.
His Majesty says while the country battles the spread of the virus, government should avert an economic collapse by spending wisely and doubling efforts to fight corruption.
As a country, we are already on a monetary consultation course to try and contain the distress in the economy. And we committed to a fiscal adjustment plan to maintain macroeconomic sustainability, and a sizable plan will be implemented over the medium term.
His Majesty says the pandemic has affected the attainment of the National Vision 2022, the King expressing hope that it wouldn't take long to achieve the national goal.
Since we earmarked the year 2022 as the year to attain first world status, it is clear that we are not going to reach that target. We hope it will not take us too long to get back on track and attain it. It is not easy to even imagine which will be the rightful year to set as our new target while we are in the process of fighting this outbreak, as we have no idea when it will actually end. Nevertheless, we have to chart a way forward. We are hopeful that this year will be one in which we can declare that this outbreak is over.
On the news, I'm Sandila Makanya reporting from Parliament.
His Majesty King Mswati III has sent his condolences to the President of the Republic of Argentina after learning about the passing of former President Dr. Carlos Saúl Menem.
On behalf of His Majesty King Mswati III, Her Majesty the Queen Mother, the government and the Swazi nation, Acting Prime Minister Themba Masuku has expressed his heartfelt condolences on the sad passing of former President of the Argentine Republic, His Excellency Dr. Carlos Saúl, on the 14th of February 2021. The acting Prime Minister says it is the hope and the prayer of the people of Eswatini that the Almighty God will comfort the family, friends and the entire people of Argentina during this sad time of mourning the departed statesman. On another note, on behalf of His Majesty King Mswati III, Her Majesty the Queen Mother, the government and the people of the Kingdom of Eswatini, the acting Prime Minister has also expressed his grief in learning about the sorrowful demise of many lives and hundreds missing after a boat capsized in the Congo River on Monday night, the 15th of February 2021. The acting Prime Minister says it is the hope and prayer of the people of Eswatini that the Almighty God will comfort the next of kin, friends and government and the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo during this dark hour of loss. Meanwhile, on behalf of His Majesty King Mswati III, Her Majesty the Queen Mother, the government and the entire Swazi nation, the acting Prime Minister extends his profound congratulations to His Excellency Mr. Sama Lukonde Kyenge on his appointment as Prime Minister of the Republic of Congo on Monday, the 15th of February 2021. The acting Prime Minister says the Kingdom of Eswatini is joining the people of Congo in joy of this happy occasion, and he expressed belief that the cordial relations which have always existed between the two countries will continue to be enhanced and strengthened in years to come for the mutual benefit of the two nations and people. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, Zodwa Ahlameni in Babane.
Following His Majesty the King Mswati III's plea that local farmers should ensure that Eswatini produces enough food, the Minister of Agriculture Jabulani Mabuza has assured the nation that the ministry is working closely with different partners to ensure increased agricultural output. The minister gave this assurance in Parliament after the King had delivered his speech marking the official opening of Parliament.
Delivering his speech from the throne for the official opening of the third session of the 11th Parliament, His Majesty King Mswati III encouraged local farmers, both at subsistence and commercial levels, to increase food production for the kingdom to achieve food security. The King says in these times of the outbreak of coronavirus, the necessity for increased food security became more apparent as it became even more evident in the midst of the pandemic that the Kingdom of Eswatini is not yet in a position to take care of its food needs. Reacting to His Majesty's speech, the Minister of Agriculture Jabulani Mabuza said the ministry is already working very hard to ensure increased agricultural output in the kingdom.
Vele tinhlelo tethu etikwasevele tiqalile tinkomba tisho kona lokho lokufaka ekhatsi ukuthi sisebenze indzaba yemadamu.
The Ministry of Agriculture has already initiated different programs with the aim of increasing agricultural produce. And one such program is the construction of small and medium dams, which will also have downstream irrigation facilities. we want to increase the number of dams for irrigation so that every farmer and household can be better placed to increase agricultural production. The ministry also initiated the Asidle Kwethu campaign, which is aimed at ensuring that all homesteads increase their food production. The ministry's focus is not just on crop production, as we also encourages farmers to increase meat production by rearing different types of livestock.
The minister says the ministry has further granted 8 companies permission to operate idle government farms. Some of these companies have already begun fully fledged activities, while those that haven't started using this land are expected to begin their operations soon. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Mbongwa Dube in Parliament.
The Minister of Education and Training, Lady Howard, says they will work closely with the Ministry of Health to ensure people's safety when schools reopen. The minister said this when reacting to the speech from the throne during the opening of the 3rd session of the 11th Parliament, where His Majesty King Mswati III says people's safety should be considered.
His Majesty King Mswati III, when delivering his speech from the throne, said a year has gone by and everybody is keen to see all children return to school, but there is a need to ensure that this process is carried with due care and attention so as to realize a safe reopening environment that will not cause a rise in new infections. The Minister of Education and Training, Lady Howard, says the ministry is ready for reopening of schools and it will work close with the Ministry of Health.
We have put in place all the safety measures at the and then when health is satisfied, we are all satisfied, all stakeholders, and then we can say we are opening schools.
In his speech, the King said closing of schools resulted in many children lagging behind in their lessons, as only a few are attending classes. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Babane.
The Minister of Natural Resources, Peter Bembe, says the development of a 300-meter wide coal-fired thermal power plant at Lupugu is at an advanced stage. The feasibility study has been completed and currently architects are designing the structure of the power plant.
In the speech from the throne, the king said the country will continue to prioritize and support efforts towards infrastructure development in the medium term, with focus being on projects with higher multiplier effects from resilient economic recovery. He said among these is the development of a 300 megawatts coal-fired thermal power plant at Lupugu that is technically and economically viable. The Minister of Natural Resources, Peter Bembe, says the power plant at Lupugu is at an advanced stage as the feasibility study has been completed and currently architects are designing the structure of the plant.
Nyalo nje sesiqedile le feasibility study. Nalo mhlaba lapha tawubekwa khona le sakhiwo nawo silo sesiubuyisisile.
We are happy to say we are done with the feasibility study, which looked at all aspects. The project is now at designing stage. We have a team of architects designing the structure, so we are hopeful that the project will commence this year.
Sinelitiko la finance ke sesitawubuka kulungisa imali tekusilo msebenzi uvela usaluqala.
The minister says government shall ensure that funds are secured for the development of the facility this financial year. Reporting, I'm Lungile Makakula with LinkedIn Kule at Parliament.
The Minister for Health, Lizinkosi, says the opening of inland ports will increase COVID-19 infections, especially because scientists have warned of a possible third wave.
Speaking at a press conference on Thursday, which was held at the Cabinet offices, the Minister of Health, Lizinkosi, said the Ministry of Health did a review of the whole year on the causes of the spike in COVID-19 cases, which revealed that the rapid increase is due to cross-border travels. The minister says cases will increase in the third wave, just as they did when the second wave hit.
Kusena kwenziwa i-review yeminyaka wonke kwabonakala ukuthi i-driver, one of the biggest drivers, a second wave, cross-border travels.
Although cases seem to have declined, we are still in the second wave. We must keep in mind that now that borders have opened again, definitely cases will increase. Not to say COVID is infectious more in winter, but our system becomes vulnerable and we are at risk of contracting the virus. As epidemiologists have confirmed that a third wave is indeed on its way, we are working hard on ensuring that the third wave does not have an impact as the second wave did, which is why we're urging eMaswati to adhere to COVID-19 regulations.
The minister says the country is, however, still not out of the woods yet, as prevention and containment systems still need a breather, especially frontline workers who have worked tirelessly and selflessly to protect the nation, a majority of whom have not had the luxury of a rest for close to a year. Therefore, she urges eMaswati to take COVID-19 seriously. Reporting, I'm Lungilele Makakula with Patizwe Msibi Babane.
Eswatini continues to experience a sharp decline in the number of passengers using airplanes as a mode of transport, as the average number of monthly passengers traveling to and from Eswatini has gone down from 5,000 to 1,000. This is an update given by Air Link Eswatini's Chief Executive Officer Joseph Dlamini when explaining existing dynamics in Eswatini's air travel sector amid the outbreak of COVID-19.
In the height of tightened travel restrictions last year, Air Link Eswatini ceased operations for a 6-month period which lasted from March to October. The 6-month travel ban resulted in Air Link Eswatini incurring losses in excess of 10 million emalangeni. The company's Chief Executive Officer Joseph Dlamini says even though the airline industry in Eswatini and world over faces insurmountable challenges caused by the outbreak of coronavirus, but they drive on indicators that show that the airline industry will continue to thrive despite the current challenges.
What's more encouraging with the increasing figures is that our main source markets are still closed. So we are hoping with the opening of Europe and the United States of America, we will see a much more higher increase in volumes of passengers flying. And we are grateful that the flyers have not lost faith in flying. They are still there flying. They are still there looking forward to flying.
Dlamini says it will take time for Air Link Eswatini to recover from the losses incurred last year during the strict travel ban.
It puts us in a much more difficult situation, and we are only grateful that on the last restrictions that were implemented, aviation was allowed to continue operating, and we're really grateful to our principals for that one, because it has allowed us to sort of pave a way forward or try and prepare for a recovery.
The International Air Transport Association, IATA, estimated losses incurred by the global airline industry last year as being in excess of $84 billion due to major disruptions caused by the outbreak of COVID-19. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Muzim Konda in Babane.
A very good evening once again. You're still watching Eswatini TV. Now we'll have a look at our sports news. Top local swimmer Smanga Dlamini says setting up camp in South Africa has largely helped him compete with other swimmers from other countries. Dlamini is in Cape Town, where he is preparing for the Olympic Games.
The suspension of sporting activities in the country because of the COVID-19 outbreak has forced many athletes preparing for the Olympics Games to go to other countries to prepare for the Games. Smanga Dlamini, who is the country's top swimmer, is expected to attend the Olympics Games. He's currently in South Africa, where he is preparing for the Games. Dlamini says it has helped him a lot to be in South Africa.
Nalaba la South Africa, nalaba Zimbabwe, Uganda, Namibia.
Smanga says training in South Africa will help him improve his times, and that when they train, they have different swimmers from other countries who pushes you to do better, and you get the motivation that you can't get back home. And they also help each other by pointing out areas in which one can improve his times.
So motivatana sikhona sipushane, so siyatshelana ukuthi kuze wende isikhathi lesingcono kufuneka wende so yabo.
Smanga concluded by adding that if he can get more time training in South Africa, his times can greatly improve, as he can already see the difference. The Olympics will be staged in July in Tokyo, Japan. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizum CV. Mbabane.
That's all for now. Before we conclude, let's have a look at tonight's headlines. His Majesty King Mswati III has informed the nation that he tested positive for COVID-19 last month. His Majesty challenges government to be cautious when reopening schools in the country. On another note, His Majesty King Mswati III has sent his condolences to the Argentinian president following the death of that country's former president, Dr. Carlos Menem. That brings us to the end of our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the weather update from myself and the team here at Eswatini TV. Thank you for watching. Good night.
While everything else is going up, we at Spar have found great prices that go down and down and down with our Spar products Best for Less sale.